Your cybersecurity solution is here. Introducing Pentester's Advanced Cybersecurity Suite. Ready for peace of mind? Try it for free. No credit card required. Pentester.com.
The Philly guys that are in federal prisons, they must be mortified that this guy's got a podcast, because I've been in federal prisons and it's very catty. As you all know, I started working for my father at 16. You know, he really didn't want me in the street. And you know, my father was in the music business then at the time with Jay and the Americans, Jay Black. You know, people only see the glamorous side of it. You know, people only see the Godfather side of it. You know, I see the, you know, the tragedy, you know, the ripping apart of families. I mean, look at my family. You know, my brother suffered, my sister, you know, look what the pain I caused my sister and my niece. Hello, everybody. I want to welcome everybody to Form Gangsters. If you like my content, please hit the subscribe button and ring the bell. Also, don't forget about my Patreon page. I have a lot of new content up there, never before seen content. The membership started at $1. Come check it out. And also, don't forget my store. Father's Day is coming up in a couple of weeks. I have a lot of good stuff there. Fat Andy t-shirts, mugs, hats. You know, look it over, check it out. See if you like anything, get in touch with us. Maybe we'll have a Father's Day discount going on. I don't know. We'll see. So there's two things this morning I want to touch on. First of all, I have to touch on, I guess, the Joey Merlino bombing of his alleged bombing of his Philly cheesesteak restaurant. You know, I've been hearing a lot of opinions out there. You know, nobody really knows what happened. I could only put myself in the, you know, in that mob mentality mode. You know, through my experiences, I know that the Philly guys aren't happy with what he's doing. The New York guys probably aren't happy with what he's doing. I mean, he's still a made member. He's not a cooperator. And, you know, he just can't have a podcast. You just don't do that. And, you know, you know, nobody even says, you know, I feel sorry for. I feel sorry for the guys that are in federal prison. The Philly guys that are in federal prisons, they must be mortified that this guy's got a podcast, because I've been in federal prisons and it's very catty. I mean, the crews, you know, they're friendly and then they talk bad about you behind your back. I mean, I feel for the Philly guys. They got to be embarrassed. Probably guys are talking about them, goofing on Joey, you know, like, and I feel sorry for them, you know, but I put myself in the mentality and the shoes of the guys that are in the street. So, you know, here's a guy that was the boss. Here's a guy that did work. Here's a guy now that he's a gambler. I mean, he's an admitted gambler, heavy gambler, degenerate gambler. I was a degenerate gambler at one time. I don't gamble anymore. I don't have the funds to gamble anymore. I mean, I make $25 parlays. I bet bullshit bets on my app because it's legal where I am, you know. So here's a guy that's got a podcast. He's probably not recognized anymore. I don't know if he's shelved or probably shelved or not. You know, I don't think anybody would sit down with him over anything. I don't think he's into anything. I mean, he's probably doing it for the money. And yet you want to have a podcast and then you want to come into my neighborhood and open up a cheesesteak place and take money out of my pocket. Because let's face it, the restaurants there, most of them are probably all controlled by the mob in South Philly in that Italian neighborhood. So now my mentality is I'm in the street still. You have this bullshit podcast. Now you want to come now and take money out of my pocket. No, that ain't happening. You know, so maybe that was a message. Who knows? You know, I don't think we'll ever find out the truth. But that could be a message. Who knows what it was? I believe it was a message. You know, I believe it was a message for him to, you know, to back the fuck down. You know, that's my thoughts on that matter. But they're not firebombing anybody else but him. So I guess they're not happy with him. And I don't think it was a random kid thing or I don't think it was random at all. I think it was a message. The second thing I want to talk about is I posted a picture this morning on my social media of me when I was 18 or 19. As you all know, I started working for my father at 16. He really didn't want me in the street. And my father was in the music business then at the time with Jay and the Americans, Jay Black, a very prominent rock star. They used to call him The Voice. Great guy, great voice, many hit records. Very, very, very friendly, very close to me. And his wife, Kathy, at the time, we were very, very close. And he was still charting at the time, Jay, and and they didn't really want me in the street. And I was a good-looking kid. I had a 29-inch waist. I was 6 foot tall. I had that look, that model look. And Jay's wife always used to tell me I should be a model. So to try to discourage me from being in that life with my father, Jay and his wife decided to take me to Greenwich Village to this famous rock photographer's apartment. He had a loft in Greenwich Village. He used to do rock album covers. Back then, album covers were huge in the 60s and 50s, 60s, 70s. Like an album cover was big art. Like you had to be a really well-known photographer to do album covers. And they took me to his apartment, and I did a portfolio. I took all kinds of pictures on his fire escape and his loft, and I posted one of the headshots this morning on my social media because they wanted me to get out of that life, and they figured that was a glamorous life. Being a model was glamorous, and I would be intrigued by it. And I wasn't really on the fence, so I took the pictures. I actually got 2 jobs. I actually did 2 shoots, one for slacks and one for shoes. But a lot of the models were gay. Not that I'm homophobic, believe I'm not going that, it had nothing to do, but a lot of them were gay. A lot of the photographers were gay. I was not gay. I am not gay. Not that there's anything wrong with that. I have a beautiful niece that's gay. But, it just wasn't for me. Like the circle I was running around, and I liked the gangster life better. I liked that life better. I liked the rep better. I liked the respect better. I liked the action better. And I just did those 2 photo shoots, and I went back to the street, and I paid the price for that. Maybe I should have stuck with modeling. I don't know, but those are the things that my family tried to do for me and my father's friends and my friends to try to get me out of that life. Because, like I said, my father really didn't want me in that life. Tony Lee really didn't want me in that life. His partner Jay Black and his wife Kathy definitely didn't want me in that life. They used to take me everywhere with them. To Long Beach. They had a beach club membership. I used to go to all his concerts. Him and Frankie Valli used to take me to Madison Square Garden. So I did like to run around in that circle, but not as a model. I like to run around as Fat Andy's son, to be perfectly honest. So that's my little story about my modeling career. It was fast and furious, but I still have the pictures. I still have the portfolio. And I still have the guy's name and his address on the envelope that it came in. And I believe that was probably around 1971. That was around the time when that picture was taken. Yeah, my friends knew, everybody knew, they were okay with it. They didn't mind. I was just a kid, I was a kid, all my friends knew. They saw the pictures when I got the portfolio, when all the pictures were developed. They knew I went on 2 jobs. I went on 2 shoots. Like I said, I did a slacks shoot, and because I had a 29-inch waist. So back then I was the perfect modeling size. I had 29-inch waist, 32 length. I was 6 foot tall. Like my measurements were perfect for being a model. I wasn't a bit. My face. I got my, I was well manicured, you know what I mean? So I fit the profile, but I just didn't have it mentally to continue in that career.
That also says a lot about your relationship with Jay Black and his wife and his family, and how much they cared about you and how tight they were with your dad.
Oh, definitely, yeah. It was strictly that, right? It was really his wife's idea, Kathy. Be a model, you should be a model. What are you doing? Get out of the street. She was definitely 100% against me working for my father. Kathy, she was dead against it.
Attention all realtors. Check out listingtiger.com. Revolutionize your real estate listings with AI-powered descriptions that sell properties. Check out listingtiger.com. Use code MAGICLIST2024 for the first month free.
A couple questions came up. G-Funk 5994. Your storytelling is interesting to listen to, especially stories about your pops. Honestly, did you get respect back then because of who you were or because of who your dad was?
I think it was both. It went both ways. In the beginning, it was probably because who my dad was. But then once I was in the street and people saw that I was sort of my own man and I was, doing my own thing, I sort of got respect for myself too.
And then going back to your dad and Tony Lee, like, were there conversations, like sit downs with you, like, listen, don't go this route, like actively, how much did they push on you?
Not much. My father, in the beginning, I told you, when I first got kicked out of school, he didn't talk to me for a couple of weeks. He would just come home and look at me and go in his bedroom and close the door until I called my Uncle Frank up and we had a meeting in my kitchen and he put me to work. Tony Lee just told me before I decided to, and this is the story that unfortunately Netflix and Get Gotti changed a little, but the real story is Tony Lee is the one that told me to go with my wife, Alice, who was my girlfriend at the time, to Washington and look at the Justice Department building and know that that building was going to chase me my whole life. So he tried to discourage me that way, but I don't want to hear it.
Ralphie asked about the sit-down video. A sit-down situation involves you. Is it better for you to be there or not? Just wondering.
It all depends on what the sit-down's over. You know what I mean? It might be over your life and death, and then I don't think you're going to be there. But, I left out a little part of that. I'm glad that someone brought up the sit-down because, sometimes it's not resolved at the sit-down. The problem isn't resolved, and then it has to go higher, and that's to the boss and the underboss and the consigliere. Like if it's not resolved between the captains and the soldiers, then it goes to the next level, which is the commission, the Bugada. So, it's not always, most of the time it's settled at the sit down, but if it's not, it goes up, it goes to the next level.
Pan 8A asks, Nino Gadget and his nephew Dominic, any interactions?
Not with his nephew, no. I don't believe I ever met his nephew. Nino, yeah, he was at my wedding. I believe, with Paul, he was one of the captains that came to my wedding. I met him a couple of times. I never did any business with him. I did a lot of stuff, guys in his crew back then, like Tommy Bellotti helped me when I was in Art to Kill Correctional Facility in 79 and 80. He had all the COs on the take. He hooked me up big time. I think Nino knew about that. But so I had some interaction with him.
I was wondering, you've, with your brother passing, you've dealt with a lot of loss. I'm thinking a little more tragedy than the average person being around the life you lived. Would you agree?
Definitely. People only see the glamorous side of it. People only see the Godfather side of it. I see the tragedy, the ripping apart of families. I mean, look at my family. My brother suffered, my sister, look what the pain I caused my sister and my niece. It's I say it all the time, all that glitters isn't gold. I mean, a lot of destruction. The mob causes a lot of destruction. So, I hate when people like Joey Molina says, the good guys. They're not good guys. We were not good guys. Good guys don't do the things we did.
Being around more loss than the average person, what would you say to someone who's having a hard time, maybe with either grieving or just where they're at in their life and how to move forward?
Just act as if, just put one foot in front of the other, wake up, make your bed, take a shower, go to work, act as if time heals all wounds. What are you going to do? You can't lay down and die. It's like, I have responsibilities, I'm hurting. But I'm going to work tomorrow. I don't want to go to work tomorrow. I really don't, but I'm going to go to work tomorrow. I'm going to act as if, put one foot in front of the other, do the next right thing and move on. So a lot of good things coming up. June 12th, I'm headed west to Sarasota and Tampa to go back into the studio with Michael. We're going to do some new content, so I'm looking forward to that. Also, I rearranged my trip to New York. I was supposed to come up on June 5th, but we rescheduled. I'll be up in New York on June 26th. We're going to do the Mob Tour. So I'm looking forward to that. Anybody interested, please, contact us. Tickets are for sale. And a lot of good stuff coming up. I'm working on a couple of shows. Hopefully something's going to click soon, and I'll get back to you on everything. If you're enjoying my show, please join my Patreon, ask your questions live, and please join my Patreon at reformedgangsters.com.